Yo, what is going on, guys? Achilles here, and today we're going to be doing a interesting tank review for you guys. This is going to be the first tier 9 tank review that I do for you. This has just been one of those tanks that recently I've just really had the hots to play, and I picked it up probably like 1 or 2 days ago, and I've just literally been playing the shit out of it. And this is the formerly known as the American Tier 10 Heavy. This is the now Tier 9 American tank destroyer, turreted tank destroyer, the T30. I feel like this is one of those tanks that really gets kind of lost in the sauce with all of the other tank destroyers that are in this game, especially like with the Waffle and like T95 and Yag Tiger and stuff like that. I feel like this is one of those tanks that really does get overshadowed just by the sheer popularity of most of the other tier 9 tank destroyers. So this is probably one of the most unique tanks in the game. I feel like it's one of the most powerful tanks in the game when you are in a very advantageous position, hold down. As you can see, you can probably tell this is like a T29, T30, a T32 hull. Well, it is the T29 hull with the T30 turret with the pretty much this is like the T34 with a 155mm gun. So yeah, let's get right into it. So we've got 1650 hit points, as you can see there on the right, and then the T30 gets 10 degrees of gun depression, which is absolutely fantastic, which, I mean, you kind of figured when you saw this turret, as the T29 and the T34 also get 10 degrees of gun depression. So, yeah, it gets 20 degrees of gun elevation, 10 degrees of gun depression, and 1650 hit points. And let's get into the armor profile here, which you're probably going to wonder, it's not really that amazing. You got 102 on the front of the hull, 76 on the side, and 51 on the rear. And then you got 279 on the front of the turret, 127 on the side, and 102 on the rear. Now this armor is very, very good in a hold down position. The front of your upper plate can be penned by tier 6s, like some tier 6s with really high pen guns. You can size grade pretty well in this tank. I find that the tracks are just absolutely massive, and then you got that little spaced armor plate right there that'll cover up. So if anybody shoots like a heat round or HE or something like that, you'll be fine. But I find that the whole armor really isn't what this tank's all about. It's all about this beautiful turret here. This thing is just absolutely massive. It is pretty weak from the side, so you will have to keep in mind that you don't want to expose too much of that. But some places to note for weak spots. If you can see right above the gun mantlet there, you can see where those rivets are. That's only about 250 millimeters effective, so if you have like a high pen TD or like some heavy tank or medium tank shooting gold ammo, you will be able to shoot right through that, even sometimes with standard rounds if you do get good high penetration rolls. So you will have to watch out for that. And then, if you can see on top of the turret, you can see, like, I'm sorry that little, like, press A button's in the way, but if you can see that little bulge on top of the turret, you see that little bulge there? That's actually only 38mm stick, so anything above a 120mm gun, or anything 120mm and above, will actually be able to auto-pin the top of this turret, along with the Commander's Cupola ring right there, I guess you could call it. I find that the cupola is kind of trolly if you hit like where the actual viewports are, but if you do hit the collar below the viewports, you will actually pin it. But most of the tanks that this tank is going to see are going to be able to auto pin the top of your turret, and you will have to keep in mind that when you are using your gun depression, say like when you're looking down like this, you won't even be able to see it. So you do want to find those advantageous positions where your auto pen top of the turret really isn't that big of a deal. So, enough about the armor, let's hop into the modules here. So, stock, you actually do get the awful 105mm on this thing, but if you do actually play the T28 prototype and get the 120mm gun, you won't actually have to play this stock, you'll get this package for free. For those of you on PC, you probably don't have to ever worry about this. But yeah, so the 120mm gun is actually pretty damn good. You get a pretty hefty rate of fire there. You get pumping out a shot every like 9 or so seconds. So pretty good DPM with the 120mm gun. So it's really not all that bad news. I know this is kind of weird, I'm talking about the gun first, but yeah, let's just go for the gun first. So with the big gun, which is what you're gonna want to use, you do get 2.86 rounds per minute, 276mm of penetration, and 750 alpha. Now that is just absolutely fantastic. And then you get 320 pen with APCR, which is also really good. Which, I mean, I don't really find myself ever firing because 276 is more than enough for like 99% of the tanks in this game. So, no worries there. But you do have a 2.9 second aiming time and a 0.3 and 0.38 accuracy, which is not the best. But it is still pretty accurate for a 155mm gun. But yeah, so you got a 860 horsepower engine, which you'll get up to around 32 kilometers per hour on flat ground. This tank isn't amazingly fast, but it isn't amazingly slow, so you don't really have to worry about that there. But then you got the 22 degree track traverse speed, which is pretty much, it's not good, but it's not awful. It could be T95 speed. Pretty much the only reason that's so slow is for balancing factors. I mean, I'm pretty sure you don't want some tank with a 155 millimeter gun rotating extremely quick. And then same thing with the turret there. You got an 18 degree traverse speed. And then you do have a 380 meter view range with this turret, which is pretty low. But we'll talk about some equipment that'll counteract that in the near future here. So, highlight of this tank, definitely the gun. This gun is fantastic, as you will see in the replays. It is highly competitive. When you're when you're top tier fighting tier 7s, you're just going to absolutely annihilate people. I'm pretty sure you can one-shot some tier 7 tank destroyers if you get a really high roll, like 900. But most of the time you're going to be two-shotting almost every single tier 7 in the game. I can't really think of any tank that has more than 1500 hit points in tier 7 like the Tiger. So yeah, you pretty much will be just absolutely devastating tier 7 tanks, and tier 8 as well. You can two-shot some tier 8 tanks, which is just absolutely ridiculous. The alpha on this tank is really, really good. So, what should you do equipment-wise on this tank? Well, I do run the large caliber tank on rammer. Pretty obvious. That's not something that you should overlook. Obviously, put it on everything that you can. And then you got vents. And then since this is an actual tank destroyer, you can't run vertical stabilizer, unfortunately. So I do run large caliber tank on rammer, vents, and optics. Now, I do find that some of these things are interchangeable. If you find yourself being more the guy that kind of, is the support tank destroyer, not as much in your face like I am, you can go for binocs on this. Despite that I do use food on this, so I mean, optics is just as good, but I mean, you don't have to sit still for 5 seconds. You could use the gun lane drive because at 2.9 second aiming time, but I find that it's really not that bad, and most of the time when I am engaging people, I'm in an advantageous position, so I don't have to actually, I can actually just sit there and let the gun aim, and I don't have to worry about, getting penned or anything, because most of the time I'm in a hold down position with this tank. But other than that, the third piece of equipment, I feel like it's up to you. I would either run binocs, coated optics, or vents, or no, not vents. The gun rammer, or the gun lane drive. What am I saying? So yeah. Now let's go on to the consumables here. So you do actually get 34 rounds with this thing, stock with the 155 millimeter gun. Now I do want to warn you, when you do actually buy this package, when you actually buy it stock, you'll see how I have 19 HE rounds in reserve. They'll give you some like crazy ammo setup, like 27 HE rounds and like 9 AP rounds. Like I don't understand why. It's just completely retarded. So make sure you do fix that once you finally do get this package. Because if you only have like 8 AP rounds to balance that out, actually no, 7. You'll have 7 AP and 27 HE when you get it. So yeah, if you only have 7 AP rounds and just rest HE, you're pretty much gonna be screwed if you're gonna be shooting a lot and you stay alive for a long time. But pretty standard consumable wise, small repair kit, small first aid kit, and then I do run cola because it is an American tank. You don't really have to worry about catching on fire unless you get shot in the ass. So, crew skills, this is a tank destroyer, so, I mean, there's not really much that's going to change. You still want the core ones, you want Sixth Sense, you want repairs, you want Brothers in Arms. Those are the top 3 you want on almost every single tank in this game, except for, like, artillery. You don't really need repairs for that. But if I were going to pick 5, I would definitely go Sixth Sense, repairs, Brothers in Arms, snapshot, and then probably clutch braking. This tank does have a very, very slow traverse speed, and if you do end up finding yourself getting circled by a medium tank, most of the time it's going to end up in you dying. So clutch braking just kind of alleviates that really slow traverse speed. But, this tank doesn't have the best camo rating, so camouflage really isn't that big of a deal. I just have so many camo perks because this crew has like 15 perks, so I don't really have to worry about, I already have all the essential perks that I need. So, module-wise on this tank, as I actually did remember to do it this time, so your driver is pretty much going to be right there on the left side, if you're looking at the tank from the back, left side of the front hull, and then your radio man is right there on the right, where the machine gun is. You don't really have to worry about them dying too much. I find that your crew really isn't going to die that much in this tank. Keep in mind I do actually have the pain tolerance perk trained too, so that helps. But for those of you that don't have it trained, your commander is going to be sitting up here along with the ammo rack in the back of the turret, so be wary of that. You really don't want to get ammo racked in this thing, because with my reload I have like a 17-second reload almost. So this tank does have really slow, bad DPM for its tier. This is definitely one of those tanks that you want to have support with you, just to fill the gap while you are in those reload periods, because most people know with the T30 that it does have a very long reload. So once you shoot, you're out of the game for 15, 16, 17 seconds, depending on how good your crew is. So your ammo rack is in the back of your turret, just like kind of that whole back portion, and then your turret ring, if you get hit like anywhere below where the side of the turret is, and then just a little bit where that spaced armor is, anywhere right there will damage your turret ring. And then your gunner is right here on the left side, or if you're looking from the back, the right side. You can see his little viewport right there. So if you're getting like HE spam to death because you're hold down, your gunner might actually die. But yeah, I've never really had that big of an issue of module damage with this tank. You know, you're never really going to get set on fire unless you get hit in the rear. So I mean, module damage really isn't that big of a deal with this tank. I found that the tracks actually do have a lot of HP, so you can take some hits with that, and you can side scrape very well in this tank. So yeah, that's pretty much it for the tank, the garage review, guys. I don't think I missed anything, so let's hop right into the replays. Alright guys, so for the first game I have for you, this is actually a map on the map Steps, and we are in a tier 10 game, and this is a pretty heavily tier 10 game. You know, but I find that that's really not an issue for the T30. As long as you play it in a very conservative position. Actually, I shouldn't say conservative. I feel like if you just play it in a really smart position, or you just play smart in general, you will find that this tank is extremely effective in tier 10 games, and you don't really have to worry about being out tier just because of how good this tank's gun is. Now, I do want to talk about the consumable setup. So yeah, when I mentioned the cola and vents and all that, the accuracy of your gun actually ends up going down to like 0.35, 0.34. So if you do run food and Brothers in Arms and vents and all that stuff, it really does actually help out the accuracy of this gun. You know, it really does benefit, and that's the only reason I even run food, is just to help the accuracy of the gun. You know, I did it on my E100, I do it on my E4. And yeah, so I feel like this is one of those tanks as well that a lot of people just don't have, because, you know, they get really turned off by the grind for this line. I know the T25-2 and the T28 prototype aren't the best, and I feel like that's probably why a lot of these people just get really turned off for this line, and then they don't even get to the bread and butter of this line. The T30 is probably one of my favorite tier 9s, definitely up there with the Conqueror and you know, like the WZ-111 and stuff like that, because those tanks are just absolutely, they're so much fun. But yeah, this is just one of those tanks that I feel like it's really underestimated in a fight. You know, because people just sometimes forget that you have this gun with 750 alpha, and it's just it hits hard, man. This is, you're gonna see here. Here I am, just utilizing my gun depression, and since I do have such good penetration, I can go right through the spaced armor on the side of him, even if I wouldn't have had to like aim for below it or anything like that. So you saw there a nice hit there in the side of the E100. Don't really know why he was just sitting there. But yeah, so this is probably the best case scenario for the T30. You see, I've got around 4 or 5 guys around me, and you know, I've got a solid piece of cover in between me, with that being like the land. You know, this is really the core way you want to play the T30. You always want to have something in between you and the enemy, whether it be a meat shield, teammate, or just some piece of land or building or something like that. Just because you can see here that the reloads are very long, and I've found that I play this thing a lot like an E100. You really do want to make your shots count, because if you do actually penetrate and you do damage, you know, you're gonna be making some amazing, tremendous trades here, just because of how good the alpha is on this tank. You can see here, I just wanted to kill that guy because, you know, it's a Borsig. I hate the Borsig. You guys will probably, I'll probably die before I ever do a review on the Borsig, just because I literally have a blind hatred for that tank. But yeah, you can see the long reload here. But you do have to also remember that since this tank does have such a high caliber gun, it does get a lot of module damage. So I found that if you do actually hit, you know, like E100s in the lower plate, or like a 112 or a WZ 111 in the lower plate, or like for instance right there, like a Centurion or some American tank in the lower plate, you probably are going to do a massive amount of module damage to their like fuel tanks, or you might even set them on fire like I just did right there. I actually do, if you guys noticed in the garage review, I actually do have Deadeye on this crew, so that helps too. But yeah, this gun is just absolutely devastating, and I found that this is just one of those really fun tanks to play. I think I'm probably just going to try to 3-mark it and just keep it in my garage for funsies, because believe it or not, it actually does make quite a good amount of money just because of how easy it is to rack up 4 or 5k damage because of how high the alpha is. Now, one thing I would like to talk about with this tank is that you really shouldn't be like on the front line. You shouldn't be doing what I'm doing right now. The only reason I'm doing this right now is because I know that I have the team around me. You know, you really never want to progress past you know, maybe past 1 or 2 teammates. You never want to be the spearhead of the push unless you know that for sure that whatever guy's in front of you, you can one-shot kill him or something like that. But that's going out on a limb, because the damage rolls on this tank, much like the E100, much like, you know, any high alpha gun, there's going to be quite a wide range in the damage rolls. You know, sometimes I've rolled anywhere from like 640 to like 920. Like the range is very massive, and you do want to keep that in mind. But this is just an absolutely devastating gun here. You know, just kind of cleaning up the rest of this game here. There's not really much to do. I think that guy was just AFK. And then you're gonna see on the map here in a second, there's just this random mouse. I think he literally just drove right up the middle of the map and just looped back around instead of actually like getting on the base and capping. But I do find that the T30 is definitely one of those tanks that, you know, you don't really ever have to find yourself shooting gold. I think in this, I can count on one hand the amount of times I've loaded gold since I bought this back like 2 days ago. And I only loaded gold here just because I wanted to get the damage in, because I knew he was going to be a hot commodity. But yeah. Now, I do want to, you know, address the traditional tank destroyer play that most people do. You know, the kind of just, you know, sitting back, chilling, you know, not really, you know, getting in the fight. I definitely feel like this is one of those tanks that you can really bring to the fight. It does have decent side armor, so that 76mm can carry you through quite a bit. You don't have to worry about getting auto-penned anywhere or anything like that. But I do want to warn you that there was this one instance, I think I was playing on like Ruinberg or something like that, and I was side-scraping a T95, and he was like somehow penning my engine deck. I guess because I was like sloped down on a hill or something like that, or like on some rubble. So you do want to keep in mind that if they can see your engine deck and they have like a really high caliber gun, that you know, weird things like that can happen. But other than that, I've never gotten penned while I'm side scraping, and you know, it's just this tank is pretty much just all good news. Now the tank after it, the T124, I feel like some people do get really turned off by the fact that it doesn't have a 360 degree oscillating turret, or rotating turret, not oscillating. The E4 only does get 90 degrees left and right, so it's pretty much 90 degrees left, 90 degrees right, and pretty much 180 degrees altogether. And then you can see the power APCR there, just literally just shot right through his upper plate because, you know, balance. But I feel like this is one of those tank destroyers that I can't really complain about too much. It's very balanced. You know, despite having the ridiculous APCR penetration, it's got a really slow rate of fire, pretty crappy gun handling, but I mean, it's also got the hull weaknesses and stuff like that. Like this is one of those tank destroyers that I'm really okay with having such good alpha, because it does have so many flaws in its rate of fire and its armor, and it doesn't have the best view range either. So, you know, this really isn't one of those overpowered tank destroyers. This isn't like, you know, like the E3 or anything like that. You know, it's no T95. Despite I really found that T95s really aren't that bad to deal with anymore. I've been experimenting throughout the games that I've been playing, that you can just kind of like, if you have a really high caliber gun like the one on this, you can kind of just shoot right through the tracks and auto pen their side armor if you hit the sweet spot. I don't know if you guys watched my the T95 weak spot video I made like eons ago. I don't even remember when that was, like, I don't even know, 5-6 months ago. It was really long ago. But yeah, if you go watch that, you can see what I'm talking about with the you know, penning the tracks through the side. It is very useful. I found it's very very good tactic when you are using, like super high alpha guns, super high like just caliber guns in general. It's just a really, really easy way to deal with the T95. But yeah, so this second game on here on Lakeville, this is probably what I was talking about earlier with the more traditional style of TD gameplay. I'm just kind of like, for the vast majority of this game, I'm just on this road. I'm utilizing my gun depression here. I'm making sure my light tank here I'm utilizing the spotting that my light tank's gonna get here, and this poor unfortunate E100 here, he's gonna get just absolutely ripped apart. And you can see the accuracy there; it's not too bad. And then the shell velocity also isn't the best, but it's not awful. I think it's like 960 meters per second or something like that. I don't know. I don't quite think it's 1,000, just because it is such a high caliber gun. So you do want to be wary of that. And then you'll see, this is the T30. It can actually snipe. You saw him just took a blind shot, got unlucky, just hit his tracks. But yeah, so I mean that guy was like 440, 450 meters away. I can't really see the number, but your sniping really isn't that big of an issue. And if you are in as good of a spot as I am right now, you can take the time to aim. You can take the time to make sure that you hit your shots. You're just gonna be absolutely just clobbering people, man. Like that 50B only has 2100 hit points, and I just took off a third of it right there, just one shot. Just it's the alpha on this tank is extremely satisfying. I don't really know how many times I can say it, but I just find this is probably one of the most leisurely grinds, and there's just absolutely fantastic shot on this guy here. I was not expecting to hit this, but that was just beautiful lead. It couldn't have worked out any better. Maybe one shot ammo rack him, but RNG. But I feel like this is one of the most painless grinds in the game, which I find is the case with most tank destroyers. Most of the tank destroyer lines really don't have that bad of a grind. Despite the T25-2 and the T28 prototype, once you get the T30, I mean, the T28 prototype fully upgraded really isn't that bad. It's just extremely slow. So this is one of those tanks that I find that if you really are passionate about, you really want to get the E4, this is probably one of the best tanks to play. I mean, obviously it's the only tank to play, but it's one of those really, really solid tier 9 tanks that you might actually keep and go back to and play, just because this tank is extremely strong as a top tier tank, and it's just devastating, man. This gun is just absolutely fantastic, and I really wish I could have been around for the days when this tank was a tier 10 heavy. I don't really know much about it when it was a tier 10 heavy. All I know is it had more hit points and it had a better rate of fire and some crazy accuracy or something like that. So yeah, I mean, I wish I could have been around for that. That would have been really cool to play it then, because that was back when the T34 was the tier 9 heavy, so that probably would have been pretty cool to play. But if I had to take out, if I had to tell you, some core things that you really want to master when you are playing the T30, and that's making your shots count. You want to learn how to, you got to really have really solid map awareness when you are playing this tank. When you see that your team is falling behind you, you really need to make that decision. There's really no time for hesitation when you are in a slow tank, to make that decision to flee and get back to a better position, a hold out position in the spawn. Like, say I was at like the K6, K7 area, and the entire team had just died in the town, and I was at like J9. Like, you really do have to, once your last teammate dies, no matter how far away they are in the town, you really do need to make that decision, and you need to make it fast to make it back to that hold down position at like K6, K7 on that hill, because your gun, the T30's gun is a it can turn the tide of the game with just one shot. So say it's like you and like a one-hit Leopard 1, and there's some like, I don't know, full health bad chat that just for some reason rolls through the town. That Leopard 1 is going to be very, very hesitant to peek out to take that trade, because obviously he'll die if he takes the trade. So if you've got, well, I wouldn't say full health bat chat, say like 1200 health bat chat. So that bat chat rolling at you, and you're one shot as well. If that bat chat's rolling at you, and you put that juicy 820 roll, 750 roll, just anything to just completely shave off a third of his hit points, probably even half at that rate, because the T30 or the bat chat only has 1800 hit points. You probably will take off about half his health. That'll enable that Leopard to just put one shot in, and he's just done. You know, that really is the power of having a really high alpha gun. You saw there, I did have an HE round loaded for the waffle, but yeah, so the power of really high alpha guns, really high caliber guns, is, you know, making those changing the tide of the battle just with one shot, and that's what a tank like this is really good at. I find that you really do want to preserve your HP when you are playing this tank as well, just because if you are alive for the end game, your gun really can make a huge difference. It's not like a you know, like some WZ1 through 2 or some light tank. Like, you know, that takes a lot of repetition to, you know, just whittle down the enemy. This gun can do what a T54 lightweight can do with 3 shots in 1 shot. So, you know, you really do have to take a step back and put that in perspective, because this gun really does do just massive amounts of damage very quickly. Well, I wouldn't say very quickly, but the alpha, or not the alpha, the damage does really add up quickly when you are using this tank. And preserving your HP and making sure that you stay alive for the end game is probably one of the best. Or I guess that goes for any tank, but especially for tanks with high alpha, and especially if you're not top tier. As you can see, I took 1 hit this entire game. So, you know, preserving your HP is extremely important, and, you know, I feel like that's just one of the keys to becoming a better player. You know, just making sure that you can. Sorry about that alarm, but yeah, it's just one of those keys that, you know, it makes you a better player. You know, recognizing when you do need to get out of a situation, or recognizing when you don't need to take that bad trade or something like that. But yeah, so that's pretty much it for the tank review, guys. This is just the little end of the game here. Get that nice kill on the Leva, just right in the booty. But yeah, so that's pretty much it for this tank review, guys. I really hope you guys enjoyed this. I feel like this was pretty good for shining light on one of the forgotten tank destroyers, I guess you could say. Nice 8K game there, even though I was just kind of at a distance the entire game. But yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. I'm probably going to be doing an E4 tank review soon, and it's pretty much going to be more of the same for this. Just some slight differences. There's a little bit more you can do with the E4 than you can with this. So yeah, that's pretty much it for this tank review, guys. I really hope you guys enjoy it. And yeah, just let me know what you guys think in the comments. If you guys have any new suggestions for what I should do next, you know, go back to map guides, just anything like that. So that's pretty much it. Let me know what you guys think. And thank you guys so much. This has been Achilles, and I will catch you guys later.